Alright, welcome back to Considered Franchise Gaming, and today I'm going to bring out a video, simply put, things that SDS could have stolen from their own games that could improve franchise now, and my kitten is going to get in the way. He's habanero. And we begin now. Anyway, think of this kind of franchise where you start off with a team with its lowest attributes and try to acquire the best possible team to win the World Series. Now, this is different because in 04, you only had about 10 years in a franchise. Now, apparently, from what I've heard, you can go many years. So I've heard some people going 30 years, 40 years, out to 2100 and beyond. In some of the MLB the Shows. I don't have any confirmation of that, but y'all might see that coming up soon. Anyhow, you go to the player pool as it says here, and you inquire and release players. Mind you, you're not caring anything about a budget, so this would be more like a no-budget franchise. Now, players are released at half the point value of the original, and trades are not permitted in franchise. You know how much of an issue we've had over the years with trades in franchise, so how about just not having them at all? Continuing on, injuries would occur on your roster, so as per usual, if you play a franchise and you dabble with the slider, the injury slider, I play with it usually at about 7. I know some people have played at 8, 9, or 10. Some people tone it down to about 3, or just not at all. Sometimes you just listen, every team just gives it their best shot with what they have, and you go from there. Now, in this version, every game earns you wins that earns you points and allow you to acquire free agents. Losing games will deduct points from your pool. As you continue on, the points are added and subtracted to the team totals. Every game, a loss deducts 75 points, and losses that are 5 in a row will also additionally subtract 150. 10 in a row will also deduct an additional 300. So everyone gives you 150. 5 in a row gets you 300, 10 in a row gets you 600 bonus points, and in-game, actual awards are given for different things. 20 for home runs, 10 for triples. I think that should be 15 because triples are hard to get. 5 for doubles, and 5 for stolen bases. I don't know what they do for pitching, but I would hope they would have something there for that too. Strikeouts would get you, X amount of points, and walks would subtract X amount of points. Giving up a stolen base would take away some points. Scoreless innings would get you some more points. Things like that. Consecutive strikeouts would get you, maybe a multiplier of some kind. Things of that nature. Imagine being able to do that and not needing to worry about the budget, because as you continue to play through current day franchise, teams are just CPU teams are just not able to make moves because they claim they don't have the budget to do so. Part of that has to do with AI logic, but look at these rosters. Fernando Tatis never played for the Red Sox, ever. But these teams are just randomly thrown together. Imagine being able to go into a franchise, not need to do a fantasy draft because that takes forever to get through, and being able to just, hey, we got this random team and we'll just go from there. Ben Sheets, I don't believe ever played for the Marlins. There are a bunch of guys. Carlos Pena played for the Tampa Bay in this game, the Devil Rays, they used to be called. Imagine being able to just jump into it just like this, just random team, not a care in the world. Think about, different content creation, and hell, even people that don't create content, this would be great to do. Back in MLB 2004, we were able to readjust the divisions within the game. At the time of creation, the AL had 2 5-team divisions, the AL East and AL Central, and 1 4-team division, the AL West. The NL had 2 divisions of 5 teams, the NL East and the NL West, and 1 division of 6, which was the AL Central. Now think of the possibilities in a franchise where you can relegate teams to different divisions. Say you set it up where you can individually set this up. Matter of fact, I will even show you. See, I can just put the teams in as need be, just throw these teams in without a care in the world, and this is where they are. Now imagine it being a relegation franchise where, one division is, the top tier teams, quote unquote. The second tier or the middle teams and the bottom teams are going to fight it out at the bottom. You know, you can do this for both leagues and all the divisions. There are still 30 teams to this day, even 18 years later after this game has come out. You know, this is similar to like how soccer, or as my international people like to say, football, they do overseas. You know, or think of just, realigning the divisions as they currently are. Think of the AL East in the current day and being able to swap, say, the Orioles for the Mets. That way, the Subway Series can happen more than just twice a year. 19. I think 19 was the first year it came out. Look at the bottom portion of the screen. Season length. Oh my goodness, you can change it. 29, 14, 162. I would hope there's something like in between 29 and 162, like maybe 54 or 100 or 125, you know, or you could just scroll through the individual numbers and just pick one, you know, somewhere between, 14 is a little short, but I mean, hey, it is what it is. You know, you can go from there. Season mode. Why don't we have season mode? Like, I get March to October is one thing, but just give us the regular teams, the regular rosters. Let us just go through 1 year. If we want to control the minor leagues, we can. And if we want to advance to a franchise itself, just like in March to October, we should be able to do so. All right. This is from MLB 06, not MLB the Show 06. But 06, 05, 04, and some of the more recent ones, like I think 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, something like that. They all have this. Contract goals. Now, I know they technically have them in 21 and a lot of the more recent ones, but there's a difference. We don't have ones where we have to hit like, hey, get a winning percentage of X, you know, make the playoffs a couple of times, you know. They also even give us a 6-year contract. Like, how about we're able to negotiate some of this stuff before we even jump into the franchise? As you can see, they want us to win 450 games, lead the league in Ks, or at least one of our individual pitchers should do so, host an all-star game. I don't know how that would work, but that's interesting, you know. Like, how about we're able to control this? That way we're able to control our destiny, and if we fail after those 6 years, you know, we move on to a new team, or maybe we get fired before we're done with that. Maybe the ownership is just so ticked off at us because, you know, they think that we should be going in a certain direction and we just haven't gotten there yet. They just say, you know what, we're done with you after year 4. You know, we appreciate you. And, you know, best of wishes in future endeavors. Scouting reports. These haven't been in MLB the Show in a very long time. Now, I will say this with one caveat. I don't want these on players that are already at the major league. I want this for guys who, you know, they might be young, all right, maybe young major leaguers, but more importantly, I want something like this for the draftees. I know at one point they had them on there for draftees, like you'd be able to see how good a guy is, you know, just maybe not how good they are, but you get an idea of how good they are. And how about these scouting reports differ, and I mean like differ widely, depending on who the scout is that is scouting them. So say Bartolo Colon here, for example, if I remember correctly, he is from Dominican Republic, and my international scout is looking at him. Maybe he thinks that he's not all that quality of a pitcher. You know, maybe he thinks he's okay, so we think he's more of a C overall. His velocity, they say, is a B. Maybe he thinks he throws harder than a lot of other guys, so they give him an A overall. A for velocity. Control, say he feels about the same. And how about, depending on that scout, depends on how accurate that report is, or at least the initial report is. Maybe the longer a scout is with a player, or, you know, scouting a region or something like that, especially when it comes to discovery, you know, then we get a better idea of how a player is or how a region is, or something of that nature. You know, that would really bring a different level to scouting than what we already have. Currently, all we really can do is just, you know, we kind of assign a guy to them and they just go from there. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, we assign a guy and they go from there. Not a whole lot else, you know. You wait some time, depending on how efficient they are. You get what you get. I haven't necessarily noticed any difference between when a guy is being scouted and how their attributes change from the beginning to the end. Now, that'd be nice to see, where maybe, say you have two international scouts. Say you have two scouts trying to scout this guy here, Tim Hudson. As you can see, his current scouting report states he's B overall, B velocity, A stamina, B control, B fielding, and A potential. Now, say between two different scouts, they give you two different reports. You should be able to see both of them on the player card. That way, which scout do you trust more? Is it the one that might have spent more time with him, or the one who might be more knowledgeable about a pitcher over the other? Say there's like maybe a 2 attribute point difference between one scout and another in pitching. Maybe the guy who spent more time to do it actually would be the one you would trust, and maybe you draft this guy high up. Now, granted, Tim Hudson's already a major league player, and in this game, this is his 6th year as a pro. We don't see this in current MLB the Shows, but I'd like for the contracts to look something like this when you're negotiating them. As we currently see, we can front load, we can back load, and that's really about it. Change the years, change the number, how much we're paying them per year, but we can't see that out like this. I want to be able to see how much am I paying a guy per year, and maybe, just maybe, I'd like to be able to adjust that front-loaded or back-loaded of a contract, and that should most definitely affect whether a guy signs with me or not. Say a young player, say we've got a 26-year-old, 27-year-old. Take Carlos Correa, for example. Well, we know he wants a long-term deal, obviously. Now, teams like the Yankees, and I'm sure the Astros are going to want to get him back, and probably some other teams. But say we're able to adjust how much I want to front load and back load that contract. Not in the sense of, us being able to defer payments, because I don't think that's something we should really be able to do. I feel like that would get out of hand quickly, though I'm not against that idea if they can figure it out properly. But imagine being able to say, I'm going to pay you, X percentage more than what you would make on average. Say he's supposed to make $15 million a year, and you decide to pay him 20 in the first, and then it's an escalating on down. Or, say we're going to pay him, 20 mil for the first 5, and then we can split up the rest of the contract. Like, I want to be able to really finagle and really be able to adjust the contract before they sign it, and then, if I'm under budget, if I'm over budget, well, we'll deal with that at another time. Fan feedback. We have literally no idea how our franchise is going just based off the fans alone. We also have no idea how the franchise is going based off of, how the owner feels. Like, in 2K, they have this now. I don't really like all of the things that they do in 2K franchise, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Again, I'd like some kind of way to know about fan feedback. How about it be tied to the tweets that we used to have, or might still have, in Road to the Show? Kind of bring that over from there, over into franchise, and have it just be a Twitter feed that we can look at occasionally. Oh, how do the fans feel about, the manager, or, the bullpen coach, or how the fans wouldn't really know anything about the athletic facilities, but they would know about things like concession stands and the bathrooms and, parking, assuming we have parking. I know at Yankee Stadium, there is underground parking, but I'd advise you never to go park there. It is going to cost you an arm and a leg to do so. And, oh look, a budget. Remember this budget balance sheet we used to have? Why is this not in the game, and why is it not further expanded? You know, I want to know how much is coming in, from whether we're taking out a loan, shared revenue, which all the teams will get, licensing and ads, which is something that is sorely needed in something like, the custom stadiums that, we would build and stuff like that. Facilities would basically be like bathrooms and concession stands and other kiosks and stuff you might see. Maybe there's not enough, maybe there aren't enough adult sodas, floating around, the stadium. Maybe there's only like one place they can go get it. Maybe they need more places, for people to get their adult beverages and such, for them to enjoy the game. Maybe there's not enough things for the kids to do in between innings because they're not just going to be able to sit there and watch an entire baseball game. At least not most of them are. I could, but maybe in like the fifth inning they want to go down to the, test their pitch speed or something of that nature. As a matter of fact, I know that is a thing in, where is it? Oh boy, we're doing this in live time. Oh boy, I know the option was here, or was here at one point, where you could, where you could look at the stuff like how many concessions people you have and stuff like that. I don't think I'm gonna find it in this one. I know it's in the older ones, but yeah, things like that. How about being able to, add more people in the concession stand, and also not just buying it, because that was always an issue to me. Like, yeah, you can go upgrade the, not the seating. Though that is a good thing I'd like to see. You can upgrade the concession stands, or not even upgrade. You can get more of them. And scatter them around the ballpark. How about there be, maybe for at random, a limit to that kind of thing, or maybe you're able to, as the years go on, because eventually after a certain point, you've bought up like 30 or 40 different concession stands and stuff and scattered them all throughout the stadium. You can only have one batting cage or something in a stadium. How about, now you've got to maintain it or even upgrade it, and, you get kind of, take those messages that we normally get, player transactions and things of that nature. How about vendors are coming in and, wanting to talk to us about upgrading those things, making them better, and seeing how the fans feel about that kind of thing. Make it really dynamic, make it something really unique. And tacking on to that, player feedback. We have no idea how the players feel about it. I know MLB The Show got rid of morale, but why? I know that people might have had some issue with the different, player morales affecting attributes. I am okay with them affecting attributes in some sense, but not like completely tanking a guy. Like, it could be a couple points here or there. Maybe something similar to Madden, where like, hey, if you're continually losing, yeah, guys are gonna lose attributes. But, say you trade them away, they can get that back. They can get that back. If you release them and they sign with another team, they can get it back because they feel better about going to a different situation. Training. Ooh, I am going to touch on training. Don't worry. Facilities, not just purchasing, but purchasing and upgrading or purchasing and maintaining what you have to, maybe, different players. That kind of thing means something different to them. To a contact hitter, they may not care about the weight room all that much. They really care more about a batting cage. With a pitcher, they're not going to worry so much about, the humidifier of the baseballs or something like that. They may worry more about, hey, can we get a different bullpen catcher or something like that? I know bullpen catchers are not that big a deal, but it's something, something that, that you can do to actually affect how your players are playing, and not just like, oh, all right, you got a different bullpen catcher. All right, we're done. Like, maybe after a while, a different pitcher might not like that guy. Maybe they want a different bullpen pitcher, bullpen catcher, and you kind of gotta see, well, damn, who do I want to actually, appease in this situation? Because you can't appease everybody. You're not going to get everything that you want. As you can see, salaries, these two guys here are okay with their salaries, but currently we can only really adjust contracts at 2 to 3 points in the year. That's right before the season, or right before or during the season in about April or so for contract extensions. Same thing in August. We can only do it then, and you can do it at the end of the year, or after at the end of the year as we go into the next season. That's not very realistic. Like, I'd be okay with maybe at a certain point of the year. Take Francisco Lindor. Remember when he wanted a bigger contract from the Mets, but he placed a deadline. Yo, I want a contract by this date, or we're not talking anymore till the end of the year. That's perfectly fine, and don't have it where we just continually try to sign a guy, like for instance, let me roster moves, free agents. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to sign him or nothing like that. But say we put out an offer, say I throw this offer out there to him and he doesn't like it. I don't want to immediately be able to just change that unless that player is okay with that. If the player's okay with that, that's fine. If not, then they'd be like, maybe we can talk again another day. To where you take, it's not a trial, maybe not so much a trial and error, where like you just keep hammering and hammering and hammering and hammering, and then eventually they sign because you gave them enough money. Options are only but so much at this point. I mean, obviously there's a club and there's player and mutual, but there's so much more with contract negotiation I want to see as well, and player feedback. Training. I hate this version of it. I hate this version of training, where you only get to check, where you get to assign it to positions and nothing more. And now, I do like this in a different aspect, but they'd have to change some things with how their coaches operate. And I dislike this version of training also. Training in any version of MLB the Show either is confusing, too limited, or it just, honestly, all of it has all felt ineffective. I know that there have been some Operation Sports forums and things like that where people tell you, hey, set your guys to different things and change it monthly, and you should see how they operate. That shouldn't need to be the case. I mean, I get the value in doing that, but we don't know how well someone is actually improving, especially when you combine that with the fact that attributes are supposed to go up and down based off of also how you play. And that just, I almost feel like one doesn't really fit with the other, or there's no explanation between the two. Take Zach Gallen, for example. He is pretty much up there in strikeouts. 102 strikeouts through, 13 games he's started. His K per 9, as currently stands, is 77. Mind you, this is, year 3 of the Arizona Diamondbacks Desert Venom series. He was top 5 in strikeouts last year. And, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think he is... he should be among the league leaders anyway. And let's take a look at that. He's number 1. Now, it's still June. And actually, there are 2 episodes before this, as you can see. It's June 15th. And I'll put those out soon. But anyhow, there should be something along the lines where, listen, if you are in the top 3 of strikeouts, your K per 9 is going to go up probably the most, with number 1 being obviously the highest. You led the league in strikeouts, you should get maybe a 10 attribute boost. Maybe not right away, but it should probably be towards the end of the year. Or if you're an older pitcher, say maybe a Jacob deGrom, your K per 9 would probably, if you're in the top 3 to 5 in strikeouts, you can lessen the regression or something of that nature. If you're top 10, you might get a little bit more regression on top of that. Take a guy like, I know there were some older guys, Steven Strasburg, who is 34 in this franchise. Again, this is 2023. He's top 17. He's probably considered one of the better strikeout guys in all of baseball, but he didn't play last year. So, he's kind of proven himself. So maybe he might take a little bit of a dip. Now, this isn't bad for most pitchers, but, for a guy like Strasburg, who routinely will get over 180 on a good year, take into account how much time they've actually played too. And kind of, maybe that's a bit of a matrix where, the more you've played, the more strikeouts you should have. But if you're not striking guys out, at the rate that is probably expected of a player of your caliber, you're going to lose attribute points. Maybe that would help a regression. Same thing when it comes to hits per nine and all other stuff. Control is, probably more a matter of how you play and also take into account the actual difficulty you play on. If you play on rookie, you're going to strike everybody out. So probably you need to be really, really high up in order to really not feel that. Or you could turn regression off and on. But again, we're talking about training in particular. Training should be you are able to place a person in a specific portion of training, and they go through it for a set amount of time. There has to be something that you measure. There has to be a set amount of time. There's got to be, think the smart approach. Kind of I'm thinking some of this is pretty similar to Road to the Show. You need something specific. They'll ask you, to increase your hit per nine, K per nine, something of that nature. Get X amount of strikeouts. There's a measurable time frame in your next 3 starts. It's achievable. I mean, maybe depending on what point in your career, you might get something where it's just well above your head. You're just not the strikeout pitcher you used to be. Take a Aroldis Chapman. He's got 21 strikeouts in, 16 games, 15 and 2/3 innings. He's come close to 100 strikeouts. Hell, he's gotten 100 strikeouts earlier in his career. So say you're a better player at an earlier portion in your career, the bar is going to be set high. The bar is going to be set high, maybe higher than you'd like. So, as he continued to pitch, there'd be, a relevancy to that where, he's closing for my team. He didn't do so. I mean, he did so for the Yankees, but there's a 2-year period he wasn't closing games, it didn't seem like. And hell, at one point in his career, he was a starter, but they failed to show that in this, which is, these stats are incorrect. Again, there needs to be something specific, measurable. It could be achievable, or something that the player agrees to. Something, you're the coach in this situation. You should be, probably putting you guys in a situation where, they're able to succeed. If it's a little too easy, it's going to be easy for them to, get to that point. They're going to think they're better than they are. And if you, give them a goal like, hey, Aroldis, get 150 strikeouts in a season. He's never even pitched 100 innings. He's a closer. The most he's done is 71 and 2/3, and he got 122 that year. Relevant. He's a closer. You're expecting him to shut the game down. You want him to, keep his blown saves under, I don't know, say 5. Keep him under 5 in a season. For him to maybe not excel, because he's 35 years old. He's pitched for 12 seasons as a closer, and some of that was him as a starter, which again they failed to show in this. I don't know how. Yeah, you want to keep it relevant. He's a closer now. He might be a middle reliever for your team, so maybe he doesn't need to get as many strikeouts. Maybe he needs to be more of an innings eater. I'd like to parlay that into another situation in this game that I'd like them to fix, but that doesn't fall in line with this series of MLB the Show stealing their own content. As a matter of fact, training should probably look something like what we do in Road to the Show. Speaking of Road to the Show, listen, the stuff is right here already in the game. That is why I'm doing this. Look, you got batting cage, practice field, training facility. Now, I would limit this probably to stuff that you could do on the off day, or maybe a guy would, or maybe, depending on the type of player that they are. And I mean that in the sense, take Out of the Park Baseball. I don't currently have it, but I will be getting it this upcoming year. You know, different players have different work ethics. So, you know, say a guy with a very high work ethic, they're going to want to work on their batting cage every single day. They're going to work on their fielding every single day before the game. You know, they're going to want to hit the gym, do some squats, you know, maybe not do squats and box jumping. That's just OD. Do some ladder training, you know, get their reaction and speed up. Like, again, these things are already in the game. It's in a different mode, which is perfectly fine, especially because, you know, some of these are ones that you can actually control, you know, on the practice field, maybe not so much batting cage. Some of them, like colored ball recognition, I'd like to see that become a thing. Again, you can also, I'd like there'd also be the option to sim these, because again, you have 13 pitchers and you have 13 hitters, unless you are the Angels, where you probably have 27 players because Shohei Ohtani meets the requirement for a two-way player. Actually, I don't know if that's really a thing. I think the Angels might actually have had 27 players on the roster. I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, not the point. Point is, listen, you've got these drills here. Say, you know, let's take actually, I gotta choose one. Clubhouse and rivalry, you know, that's not a bad idea, especially if, you know, to put in the game as well, especially considering, you know, the manager, you know, we are the managers, and also probably also the players and the owners. You know, maybe in franchise we can have 3 different modes, even just in that, where, you know, hey, I'm just gonna control all the on-field stuff. Maybe I just do, you know, or, you know, you can, yeah. Kind of like, I want to say Madden. I can't believe I just said that sentence, but yeah. You can play / be the manager, you know, do that. You can literally just manage. You can GM, you know, where the games are simulated, and maybe you see it in the, I'm going to do this one just for shits and giggles. I haven't played through the save file in a long time. Matter of fact, this was on my first State of the Franchise channel, and again, for any given lineup you have, currently we have 9 players here, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players. Like, say you want to just do, you know, you want to train one of the players. You know, in my case, it'd be Mitch Heron, as he's the player I'm controlling the road to the show. Say I want to take him through a drill or two. This would be before the game. You know, it can affect his stamina somewhat. Yeah, stamina. His durability. Yeah, stamina somewhat. And then you go from there. Like, you don't have to do all the players. You know, maybe they allow you. Maybe you're only allowed to do 3. That's fine. I have no problem with that. You know, maybe it depends on what your coaches look like. If your coaches are pretty good, which I don't think we don't have the option to even look to see who our coaches are in this. So unfortunately, we have no idea who they are. But yeah, say we have the coaches, and you need to, you know, you got to work with them. You got to work with them, you know, and depending on what your coaches are, how high, maybe not overall rating. I also want the managers to be changed from just a couple of pluses, minuses to full-fledged, like, tangible, you know, people and things where, you know, they have strengths and weaknesses and attributes all across the board. You can have your strengths and weaknesses. Say your pitching coach is good at pitch velocity and, you know, walks per 9 or something, you know, ability at preventing a guy, you know, helping a guy through his walks per 9. So, you know, when they individually work out with a guy, you know, you get to, you know, you have a better chance at getting a higher per 9, walks per 9. And nothing drastic, because I don't expect anything drastic. Listen, these are like, you know, routine things that guys are doing every day. And the longer you do it, again, under that time frame and that SMART acronym, you end up with eventually, hopefully, a better player. You know, guys who are worse at things, it's going to take them a lot. It's going to take them longer to get a lot better, but they can get better, you know. They can get better at maybe a quicker pace. I don't know. Let it be something based off the player's work ethic, based off the coach's attributes. You know, the CPU should be trying to get the best coaches they can, as opposed to just whatever, whoever, random. You know, make it matter. Make it all matter. As I'll step on the bag, and I completely forgot to throw it the second. So in that, you know, this player should lose fielding. He should lose some fielding, you know, maybe reaction, because, hey, he screwed up in the infield. All right, team overviews. Now, this is the dead beginning of the season, so everybody is going to be quote-unquote normal. We need this back in the game for the simple fact the AI doesn't exactly make the best of decisions, and at least if they were set to some kind of organizational strategy, we can get an idea of what they'll do, or maybe they'll make smarter decisions. As you can see, in normal, teams are looking to make even trades with other organizations around the league. Even trades would likely benefit each team equally in the short term, and that's perfectly fine. You know, in the beginning of the year, or even towards the middle of the year, you know, you're trying to do enough to try to get yourself into the playoffs. The CPU offering us trades. Now, I know it happens every once in a blue moon. I don't know, maybe because I've had my trade slider so low in most of the franchises I've ever done that I don't really get trade offers. But what happened to the AI offering you trades? Now, I'm going to view the offer and consider it. Granted, I don't have a whole lot of information to work with. We still don't have much more information to work with other than overall now at this point. And this trade is actually probably going to happen. Ooh, Jason Kubel, Scott Baker. Mind you, this is me just messing around with this. Also, if you look down below in that right-hand corner, what happened to the broadcast feeds we used to, maybe not broadcast feed, the broadcast snippets we used to get from all kinds of, you know, different moments? Have they just been replaced with the DD type moments? Because I'd actually like to see some of those broadcasts, you know, show up as audio, especially considering we're probably not getting sounds of the show back anytime soon. Something I didn't expect to find here, but look, there's a 16-year-old player that we can scout. And, well, actually, I can't scout them now. The draft has already ended. But look, there's at least at one point, there was an option to actually scout this young man. Why is beyond me. Actually, why it's showing some other names makes no sense. But anyhow, there are players that are 16, 17 years old that, you know, this actually happens in the draft. Guys get drafted. I mean, I know the draft is stuck to but so many rounds, but it wouldn't hurt to have younger players. Now, we know that those players probably aren't that good right away. Not everybody can be Alex Rodriguez and basically be Major League ready, or Bryce Harper and basically be Major League ready from the second, you know, they're like a sophomore or junior in high school. But it'd be nice to know that there are players there that I can scout and hopefully draft, because I know in the draft, you can only draft 18-year-old players. Maybe that rule has changed in the years I've been watching baseball, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm pretty sure you can be drafted at 16 so long as you have finished high school, basically gotten your GED. Now, I know I've mentioned this a little earlier, but again, this has probably got a lot to do with the financial aspect of the game. But as you can see in this franchise, the Athletics are traveling from Boston from New York to Boston, which is a 180-mile trip. We could either take the bus, which is really cheap. I know it's not that cheap, or the cost of a flight. And honestly, I'm going to take the chance to take a flight. Like, I know that occasionally this pops up. I feel like there should be more frequency of this popping up. You know, you get, say every road trip, you get the option to do this. You know, you get to either take a bus or a flight or the train, you know, things of that nature. You know, it would add a little bit of variety, as, you know, if you take one bit of transportation over another, you know, either more stamina or, you know, guys recover faster, you know, things like that. You know, and if you're a team that's on the outskirts of getting ready to have all your money spent, you'll choose the bus and take the lesser attribute, you know. Again, something else I didn't expect to see. I mean, in current day MLB the Shows, we can see whether a guy is arbitration eligible or whether they have a renewal contract. But, the type of free agent they might be type A or type B or Super 2 in Gio Gonzalez's case, as he has at least 2 years but under 3. So, things get a little wonky as to how that works. As I know in current MLB shows, it is extremely rare to ever see a Super 2 player at any point in time, especially not on your own roster. Unless I'm absolutely mistaken. But again, type B free agents, type A free agents, that usually coincides with what kind of draft pick compensation you can get. So the game itself is saying that this guy is going to get an under $50 million contract in totality, whereas up here in a type A, Michael Wirtz, he'd get more than 50. Now that might have been different at this point in time. This is MLB the Show 11, so that number might have been much lower than what it is now. But the same thing still applies. Again, contract renewable. You can see all the players. What I don't like from this era is the fact that every overall or attribute was a bar, not a number. I don't have anything to really work with other than, is this one a sliver bigger or smaller than the other? So, not much to work with. But, again, about the type of free agents that you're seeing here are pretty much what I'd like to see from MLB The Show. Now, as stated earlier, I would like to see the layout of the contract, as you see in the lower left corner. But more importantly, this is a minor league player with no service time. I want to be able to give him a multi-year contract. I can't tell you how many people out there would love to just see the ability to sign a guy for 2 or 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years, or whatever they might want, just to keep them on the roster and not have to go through 20 and 30 and 50 different minor league players in order to try to figure out who is actually, going to come back to the team, who you're choosing to sign back. Like this guy here, I could sign him to a 3-year deal. Now, the number, it doesn't matter what it is, because we know minor league players don't really make that much, or at least most of them don't. But still, the premise still applies, at least for the video game. I want to be able to give guys a multi-year deal. That way, listen, if this guy isn't crap by the time he's 24, then I could just let him go. Or, at least we know how long I have control of his services, until he's able to leave. Imagine there being a screen like this as soon as this broadcast feed goes over. We'll see what the actual screen is. Player progression. Imagine having a screen where you can see how good a guy has gotten over the year. I don't know if this has been an issue for MLB to show the input, but this should be the thing. Like, look, Seth Smith went up 13 overall points. Now, the overall, you know how I feel about it. I feel it's very overrated. But you can see how his actual attributes have gotten better. +6 contact, righty-lefty, +12 lefty power, 12 +13. On the home righty power, I am actually not questioning that because of the simple fact he only hit 4 home runs. And unfortunately, these stat cards don't show how many doubles or anything he had. Doesn't show his playoff. He didn't make the playoffs. But still, as you look through it, durability, discipline, vision, I don't think he should have went up 13 overall points. But when your power's gotten better, and let me see there, his speed went up 14, meaning I don't know what the hell he's doing. Maybe he's training with Usain Bolt. But, hey, that's not a bad thing to do, for training. Hey, how about having guys train with an Olympian? Just throwing things out there. Again, this is player progression. This is not something we currently see, so we have no idea how good guys actually get unless we were to actually take a snapshot from the beginning of the year and the end of the year and then compare the two, or at least the numbers that compare the two, because minor league stats just don't do that any justice. Minor league stats now, they are in for 1 year, and then you don't see them again. They should be a part of the player card. Now, this is MLB The Show 08. And we're going to be an MLB The Show 2022. We should definitely by now have a record of guys' minor league stats and their major league stats, even if they play them both in the same year. If they play AAA, AA, and then the majors, I should be able to see the stats for AAA, AA, and the majors, and all separated, because currently, as we have it, the stats that are accumulated, for instance, if you guys took a look at my Desert Venom series, which I will link somewhere up in the iCard, when I acquired Mr. Kyle Lewis for the Diamondbacks, there was an issue with his stats where it basically said he led the team in home runs despite the fact he played for another team. Separate stats by team and by level at which they have played. If a guy plays on 4 different teams in a year, show me all the numbers for the 4 different teams. Like, a guy shouldn't be in the running for MVP if they went from AL to NL, but, they went via the trade deadline. Like, say a guy spent the first 2/3 of the season in the AL, gets traded to the NL. He was on a tear in the American League, but the team just didn't want to afford him, so they decided to trade him and get prospects. And goes to the NL. He leads all of Major League Baseball in, the requisite categories, or at least one of them or whatever. However, the game decides their MVP. But I think I went up 18 overall points. That is ridiculous. Still, when moving over the leagues, things should change. Like, unless there's like a CC Sabathia type situation where a guy goes from the AL to the NL and he's absolutely freaking dominating in the last month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, whenever he gets traded. Like, unless they are absolutely dominant in that time frame, should be separate. Yes, I'm stating that CC Sabathia should have won, what was it, the 07 Cy Young in the National League. I know he didn't. It's a shame, but, things happen. Anyways, on to the next one. Here's a lost gem I miss having. Free agency with a timer. Now, I don't exactly remember how long that timer is, but it's not that long. I'd say maybe about 2 or 3 minutes. Why don't we bring this back as a feature? Like, think about it. Free agency, we kind of can just rummage through all the players and see which ones we want and offer contracts on day one, as opposed to having the urgency of, yo, you better throw a contract out to this guy now, as opposed to waiting. Because, look, we're halfway through, and I haven't even looked through any of the free agents. So, that should be something that we should be allowed to do. Now, I'd like it to be where you can change the timing of it, because this looks like it's about roughly a minute and a half. Push it up to maybe, how about we're allowed to move it up to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That way, we've got enough time to where we can scroll through guys or put the pressure on ourselves to really be like, hey, you need to go sign somebody. You need to go put the offers in right now, or else, you're in danger of losing people. Now, I don't remember my team's roster at this point. I haven't touched this save file in over a year. But, at some point, again, that would be something that would be great to throw in the game. Now, you can have it where people can change how much time is on there. You can have it where people can just turn it off. You can, and, because again, and with the players, sometimes they need to sign at different times. Not everybody signs within the first 2-3 weeks, first day of free agency. As it's become kind of the tradition, a lot of guys like Bryce Harper, Trevor Bauer, guys of that nature, highly coveted players are going to take their time usually before they sign. And then once they sign, they've got the big money deals and things of that nature. It should be something that should be implemented a little bit more. That way you've got a lot, you can have suspense in the offseason where it's like, hey, this guy Hanley Ramirez, he's a beast. Look at him. Great potential, above average power, great contact, good speed, decent fielding. You want that kind of guy on your team. I don't remember if I'd actually want to sign him at this point. But again, you have, the opportunity to throw a contract out there, once. I don't want to be able to just, to look at the meter of desire and we know how much they actually are signing for, because that's just boring. I don't want to know how they feel immediately. I want them, how about having them counter offer? Like I believe they do in 2K. Guys can counter offer for a deal. Just going to throw this contract out there. Again, they counter offer. Maybe guys could look and try to throw in some incentives on their own behalf. Like, hey, yo, if I'm an all-star every year, if I'm an all-star, I get $500,000 a year, in order for me to not feel so homesick, how about I get luxury box suites 6-7 times a year or something like that. Things that shake up franchise, things that probably aren't too hard to implement, in the game. But I'm not a developer. I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. I just throw ideas out there.